The age-old meme of there's more to Brazil than soccer and samba, although it's actually called football, is funny and also just very, very true. Whilst those are some of the biggest cultural exports of Brazil, there's so much more. So today we're going to be looking at some of the different carnival music styles or carnival adjacent styles that come from Brazil, hoping that this serves as a bit of a jumping off point for you to delve more into some of these genres. I'm going to go from the most well-known to the more niche ones. Samba reggae. Samba reggae is the most well-known carnival style that isn't samba, and is incredibly well-known internationally through collaborations with Michael Jackson and Paul Simon. Starting with Ilha, the first Bloco Afro in Salvador, in Bahia, which is in the northeast of Brazil, who are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. Before them, there was no black communities who were allowed to partake in the Salvador Carnival. Ilha was the activist group that set up the first Bloco Afro, first group for people of African heritage who could partake in carnival specifically. Ilha kind of founded this movement, and figures such as Neguinho de Samba in particular sort of took that and adapted it and created other groups playing this rhythm that Neguinho called Samba reggae. The classic Samba reggae that we all know comes from Neguinho de Samba. You'll hear it being played by Olodum, Banda Gira Feminina, as well as lots of samba reggae groups across the world. There's so many different Bloco Afros and samba reggae groups in Brazil. Here are a list of a few that you should check out. Much of the instrumentation is very similar to samba from the south of Brazil, including 5 different tunings of surdos, bass drums, caixas or snare drums, repiques. You'll also get chimbal, which is a Bahian hand drum. Maracatu de Baque Virado, or Maracatu Nação, comes to us from Recife in the northeast of Brazil, further north in the state of Pernambuco. Maracatu Nação is probably the oldest style that I'm going to talk about today. Some of the oldest groups have been going since the 1800s playing this music. At the time, anything that was perceived as African or using drums in the street was illegal in Brazil as a Portuguese colony. So what the Maracatu Nações did was very, very sneaky and clever. As part of this ceremony to crown the King of Congo, they would dress up as the Portuguese royal court. This allowed them to parade in the streets and celebrate, wearing their drums and saying, "We're honouring the Portuguese Empire," which they were doing the very opposite of. Maracatu Nação uses alfaias, which are big rope-tuned bass drums, caixas or snare drums, gongue, which is a type of bell, mineiro, which is like a ganzar, a sort of closed shaker, and agbe, Sticking in Pernambuco, we have frevo. Frevo is like one of the most colourful and punchiest carnival styles from Brazil. It's also one of the most complicated ones to play and dance to. The dance moves of frevo come to us from capoeira, and they sort of altered the capoeira moves to make them even more acrobatic. If you thought that wasn't possible already, they did it. The instrumentation of frevo is brass bands with surdo, caixa, pandeiro, small percussion sections, but lots of brass and woodwind instruments. A lot of frevo has all these crazy runs, and there's very fast, complicated, lots of 16th notes. You can get frevo in the street, you can also get frevo in big bands also. And a lot of the frevo music is similar to like polkas. Marchinha. Marchinha, or marcha, is from the south of Brazil and is kind of similar to frevo in that it's brass band music. Marchinha is much older, comes to us from the south of Brazil as I mentioned, and has its roots in satirizing military parades, which were all the rage in the late 19th century. Many of these songs, however, unlike the frevos, have lyrics. A lot of these lyrics are really simple and catchy, and a lot of these lyrics nowadays are quite problematic. Many of these songs have been utilised by right-wing groups in Brazil, so unfortunately it's kind of awkward to play some of these songs now. The fact that these songs were weaponised makes it even more awkward. Marchinha being a precursor style to samba, it's not so favoured anymore. People still love a good marchinha. You'll still find it every so often, but it's not a big thing anymore. Bumba Meu Boy. Bumba Meu Boy is like one of my favourite ones that I haven't yet experienced or properly studied. Bumba Meu Boy is not from anywhere else we've mentioned so far. It's from Maranhão. Maranhão is a state in the northeast of Brazil also, but more on the north coast. Bumba Meu Boy is adjacent to Carnival. There's a bit of a crossover because Bumba Meu Boy has 2 seasons. There's one in the Brazilian winter and one in the Brazilian summer. It traces its roots back to the 18th century. The meaning of Bumba Meu Boy is like beat my bull. Boy is bull. Similar to maracatu, Bumba Meu Boy has a specific story that it's telling, and it also involves lots of people getting together with costumes and large street manifestations. So it doesn't have its roots in the kind of carnival stories that you might find, carnival being more associated with Catholicism. As I understand it, Bumba Meu Boy doesn't have a strong religious connotation. The story of Bumba Meu Boy is a really interactive play that the music can change every year, but by and large, there's a story that is being told that's kind of the same. The feel and instrumentation of Bumba Meu Boy is really unique compared to a lot of these other styles. We have maraca, like a normal maraca. We have what's called matraca, which is basically like 2 slats of wood that are flat. Tambor onça, which literally translates as jaguar drum. It's kind of like a deep cuica. So there's no tuning mechanism on this drum. It's just tuned by the fire. Same with the other drums I'm about to mention. 3 types of frame drum. These frame drums are called pandeiro, pandeirão, zabumba. I've also heard them be called repique. There are 3 frame drums that have no jingles and are held in the hand. The 3 of them make this kind of conversation together. They're tuned by the fire in their own sort of ceremony, and it has a really nice 6/8 trancey feel to the music. And last but not least, cabloquinho. It's a really niche manifestation also from Pernambuco. Cabloco is a term used in Brazil to mean someone who is mixed race of indigenous and European heritage. This manifestation is related to Jurema. I have the pleasure of scratching the surface of this with the one and only Guga Santos. Jurema is a culture that's built around the Jurema tree, and they have a sacred practice where they take the fruit of this tree and make a tea out of it. Cabloquinho is a small ensemble of people dressed in indigenous outfits, and they go between sort of half-time and double-time tempos quite seamlessly. It's a small ensemble using like a bass drum, whether it be a zabumba or a surdo, harmonica, maracas. The maraca could also be a really cool instrument called caracachá, and these really cool bow and arrow instruments that kind of make a clacking sound that they do in time with the music. Cabloquinho does take place specifically within Carnival. It used to be an opportunity that was only available to men, but now it's a bit more open. I hope you've learned something about different carnival styles from Brazil. Let me know if there's anything you think I missed. If you want more information about Brazilian music, you should check out other videos on my channel, as well as my ebook, which has accompanying MP3s and videos all about different Brazilian music types.